Hello, everyone. Welcome again to another CanXida webinar. And today's topic, I thought I would talk about something that's really important to many of you out there, I know. And this is the conversation about nail fungus and candida and what's the connection. And I think that you might be surprised a little bit at some of the connections that I'll talk about here today. And I importantly want to uncover those hidden connections and then talk about natural solutions that work for nail fungus because it can be a difficult one sometimes to kind of get a hold on. I haven't had this slide up for a little while in my presentation, so I just thought I would do it again to just, if you're new here at CanXida or you haven't seen a video where I've really introduced myself yet, I'm Dr. Blake Myers. I'm a naturopathic physician, have been for over 10 years. I'm a graduate instructor in integrative and functional nutrition at Saybrook University, and I also own a clinical practice. It's a virtual practice called Chiron Healing Arts, and I'm also an author and a writer and content creator. What I want to go over today are what I already mentioned about the hidden links for especially stubborn nail fungus infections. As you'll see, like sometimes it can be straightforward, but a lot of times I have a feeling many of you watching this probably uh, know if you're experiencing nail fungus that it can be pretty stubborn. And so it's important to understand what are some of the hidden links there and the root causes potentially that aren't getting addressed for resolution. I want to talk about topical antifungal treatments, both natural and pharmaceutical, and importantly, why those can fail and what kind of role do they play or don't play in nail fungus protocol. And then, of course, I want to talk about a whole body natural medicine approach, right? Here at CanXida, we're uh, focused on natural approaches to candida and fungal issues, but also a naturopathic perspective, which is a whole body perspective, a holistic perspective, and a root cause perspective. So, of course, we'll go into that. And then I want to talk about how to use CanXida's formulas. So, first, what is nail fungus? The medical term for this is onychomycosis, and it is just a fungal. You could have a fungal infection of really anywhere in your body. This particular infection is of the nail itself, and it could be the nail bed underneath, meaning the the tissue underneath that, if you cut your fingernails too short or something like that, like it's sore and raw because that's kind of raw tissue under there because it's where the nail and the nail bed meet, is kind of a sensitive area, and that area can get a fungal infection as well. So it could be any fungus, but Candida is one of the most common fungi in the human body. So it's quite possibly Candida if you have a fungal nail infection. This is an important slide to discuss a few things. There are different reasons that you could get a fungal nail infection, but the first thing I want to say is that in if if you're if you're healthy, there should be a lot less reason that you get something like a nail fungus. Most of the time, I mean, you could take another example of if you get a cut on your finger, let's say, um, most of the time that's not going to get infected, right? If you break the skin somewhere, your body, your immune system should have the ability to make sure that you don't get an infection. Of course, it depends on what you broke the skin with, if it was like very dirty and had a lot of bacteria or something. But understanding that you probably scrape yourself, cut yourself, not that infrequently, like in a year, right? And how many times does it get infected in a year? Probably not really. Well, the same sort of thing is true if you think about the nails and the nail bed. Your body should be able to uh, really prevent a bacterial issue, or in this case, a fungal issue, from happening. If there's something that gives fungus an opportunity to grow in the nail environment, your body should be able to take care of it very early on, so that the fungus can't actually get a kind of get a root hold, right, to where then it can start to overgrow. So if you're in the situation where it's overgrown, I think first we just need to think about, well, why might that be? So one possible reason that's maybe the most simple to deal with is if there was a local trauma, perhaps. Say somehow you You damage the nail in some way or the nail bed, something where uh, an infection basically could ensue, and that happened to be fungus. And um, maybe there were some contributing factors that just helped it to overgrow that were minor things like, say, you were wearing the same socks all the time or something, and so just the environment was just good. But otherwise, total body wise, you're healthy, right? That might be the most simple thing because you can probably just go in there, as I'll talk about topically, like just right on the thing and right on the nail and maybe take care of it, and there's no issue. But that's really not often what we're talking about, especially in stubborn nail fungus. So we need to think about what might be going on. Well, the immune system, there may be a dysfunction or a suppression of the immune system. Another word I didn't put here would be maybe an imbalance in the immune system. It doesn't mean your immune system's not working right, but the immune system has many different pieces of it, and they can be kind of balanced in different ways. And so if they're skewing in one direction of immune response, that's a different sort of thing than if it's in another way, or if there's a balance. And so if there's an imbalance for a reason, that definitely can create the situation where your immune system wasn't able to and isn't able to get on top of it. So we need to ask why that is, of course, right? The optimal environment. This is another one where if this is the main reason that you have even like athlete's foot, but in this case a nail infection or something, we really need to deal with the environment, right? So the terrain, as we might call it, also in natural medicine, fungus likes dark and damp, and possibly if there was poor hygiene, there wasn't a lot of washing of the area. Those things could contribute, right? So we need to think about that. But there's really a hidden culprit here that I want to talk about in a minute. And if you're experiencing this, you probably know this, but if not, then the way that so that the way that it can look is the nail will often get discolored, kind of a yellow or a brown even. It'll get thick. The nail starts to get thick and sometimes can separate from the nail bed a little bit even. The nails can often get kind of ridged or misshapen. They can get brittle and crumbly. And they sometimes, if it's more serious, then it could have a pretty bad odor, and pain is possible. That's not something that people have expressed to me so much that it's painful, but it's these other things, and a lot of times, really the reason that people want to deal with it is more of an aesthetic sort of thing. They don't like how it looks. They don't want to walk around in sandals and that sort of thing with it. So it can be more of an aesthetic thing, but that a lot of times to address it, as you'll see, we need to take a holistic approach. This is a case of a 40-year-old woman named Laura with nail fungus on multiple toes for really the better part of 5 years. And just a little bit of the history in this case. And she works at home. She works remotely. So a lot of times she works out in the morning and she sits down after she gets breakfast or something. She's still wearing the same clothes, socks, everything, just kind of like sits down and works for half the day, and then maybe she goes and showers and changes later on. So she's still kind of in the same clothes, and in this case, importantly, like the same socks. She does her best to eat well. She does have a sweet tooth, though, and will definitely partake in sweet things fairly regularly because of that. And she has one or two, maybe two glasses of wine a night. And she's tried a lot for this, mostly pharmaceutical, despite multiple different topical medications. So topical means that you put it on it directly. It's not oral, which is taking it by mouth. So just on the nails itself, trying different topical medications over the years, and nothing's really resolved it. Maybe it's helped a little bit, but it's just as soon as it stops, it comes right back, and it's never really resolved. Um, and now, really, the reason that she's presenting is because she's in a new relationship and she is feeling embarrassed about the way her nails look. And so this is kind of what I was saying. Aesthetics is a big reason that folks often come into the clinic to have something like this dealt with. And so that's the case here. So this is just kind of maybe a typical case that one might hear. And so from this, there's a lot of things to consider. And so I think, if you just keep in mind the things that I'm mentioning in this case, there's a lot more here to address. Maybe the first thing you're thinking is, oh, she needs to change her socks after she works out, and you're absolutely right. That is part of this treatment protocol in this case. But there's a lot more here, right? So uh, we're noticing that her diet has a fair amount of alcohol and sugar in it. and she has sugar cravings. Okay, that's interesting. And then um, we're seeing that the that the topicals really haven't done the trick. So that's saying, okay, that's those are very antifungal, right? They're killing it. Why is it not going away, and why is it coming right back? And when that's kind of happening in a case of really anything that you're dealing with, if what you're doing isn't resolving the issue, then there's something that we're missing, right? We're missing a root cause, or there's a major, what we might call in naturopathic medicine, an obstacle to cure or an obstacle to wellness or health. There's something in the way, and there's something maintaining that, right? Like a maintaining factor. So that's what we need to consider in this case, because um, I can recommend to Laura that she use a pharmaceutical topical. I can recommend that she use a natural topical, which I'll talk about some of those things here in a few minutes. Um, but am I going to just do that? No, because I know it's not going to work, right? I can tell her to use a natural topical, and I'm sure it will help while she's using it, but it's just going to come right back probably, just like it did with the pharmaceuticals, right? So we know there's something else to think about. And this is really one of the hidden culprits that we often need to think about, and that is candida overgrowth in the gut. And I want to be clear that having nail fungus does not mean that you have candida overgrowth in your gut. And having candida overgrowth in your gut and a lot of digestive issues from it and things, that doesn't mean that you have nail fungus. Um, but candida overgrowth in the gut is kind of a baseline problem that can contribute to fungal issues showing up in other places in the body, especially places that we might be able to see it, right? So common ones, so it's not just the nails, it could be the nails, but if you have candida overgrowth in your gut, maybe, besides digestive symptoms, maybe you have skin issues. So common to have skin issues. Could be really lots of any kinds of skin issues. It could be a fungal skin issue, but it could be eczema and psoriasis and different things. And then vaginal yeast infections as well. And I've talked about that in many other videos on the CanXida channel, about how um, these different issues are connected, and a lot of times the hidden culprit, is the gut, because we can't see it. But if we think about what we're experiencing, or if you're a clinician watching this perhaps and you're taking a case, you ask a lot of detailed questions around every body system, and especially their gut, and you find out, oh, there's a lot of digestive symptoms that sound like they could be candida related. So I just want to say that if you're having nail fungus issues and it's stubborn and not going away, this is an area to consider. I'm not saying you absolutely have candida gut issues, but I'm going to approach it from this angle, because I think if you'll I think if you'll consider what I'm saying, and do what I'm mentioning here in this webinar, then you will see the nail fungus improve, and hopefully resolve, really, because it's a more holistic and kind of root cause approach. So why in the world would candida in the gut, why would that be connected to the nail fungus issue? It's not like the candida is leaving your gut and going to your nails, right? Is it? Well, maybe actually that's possible, but uh, but through the bloodstream. But really, the main thing is that candida alters your immune system in your gut. So much of your immune system is in your gut. Your gut is all surrounded. The whole thing is surrounded by immune cells and tissues, and the health of your gut microbiome, and the bacteria, and the balance of the bacteria and the yeast that normally live there. Candida is normal a normal part of the gut flora in 40 to 80% of people. So it's not inherently bad, which you've probably heard me say here before. But it can be bad. It's a potential pathogen. So if it gets the chance to overgrow, it will, because it wants to multiply. And so it's really, if that happens, then if there's an imbalance, or a dysbiosis is what it's called, in the gut microbiome, then that changes the immune system. Your microbiome is a major part of helping to keep immune system balance in your gut. And the thing is, your immune system in your gut now is not separate from the immune system anywhere else in your body. It is what we might call crosstalk. So I've talked about this in at least one other webinar regarding vaginal health and vaginal yeast infections, and how there's crosstalk between uh, the microbes in your gut, and, like in that case, the vaginal flora, but also the immune system, and the immune system everywhere else. So when there's an imbalance in candida in the gut, that imbalances the immune system in such a way that it can predispose to many other types of health issues. Now, it could be allergies, it could be skin issues, or in this case, it could be nail issues, right? So that's why this is a really important thing to consider. Um, and this is kind of true, just to throw this out there, this is kind of true for any health issue that isn't resolving in the typical way that we might expect. Um, it's just worth considering the gut. It's not always the gut. There's many other things that have been going on, but that's kind of a foundational thing from naturopathic medicine that I learned in medical school was when you don't know what's going on, you think of like treating the gut and the liver because they're connected, and the gut really is underlying so much of our immune system and our health. So think about the gut if you have these symptoms of nail fungus that aren't resolving, and if you have other issues like, oh yeah, I I do get vaginal yeast infections a few times a year, or I do have these skin issues. Those are just other boxes that are getting checked that we need to consider a more root cause issue, right? Like the gut. Common treatments for this. So if you go to a conventional medical practitioner, the first thing they're going to do probably is a topical. So they're going to have you put something on the nails, like this patient Aaron did in the case. Um, and there are oral pharmaceuticals, but there's some problems with this. So one, oral pharmaceuticals. Well, perhaps you've heard of the medication nystatin. Nystatin's actually a pretty, if you're going to use a pharmaceutical for candida gut overgrowth issues, nystatin's a decent part of a protocol in terms of the killing aspect. It's not absorbed; it stays in the gut. So it's pretty safe, and there's very little issues other than maybe if you take too much, you get a die-off reaction or something like that. Uh, but you can't do that. I mean, if you were just trying to treat the gut, okay. But if in this case, this would be an oral medication that's absorbed and it goes all over your entire body with the hope to just kill the nail fungus, right? Which sounds a little crazy. Like we're gonna take something that's high enough dose, toxic enough that it pervades our whole body just to get to our nails. Sounds a little crazy, right? So the main issue I would say though with the oral pharmaceuticals that are antifungal is they're very toxic. They're very liver toxic, and uh, I don't recommend those types of medications. I can prescribe medications in the state where I'm licensed. I will use medications if it's the best option for a particular case or something for different reasons. But those types of medications are ones that I just really would rather stay away from if I can at all. So for that reason, and then also back to the conversation about what's the root cause kind of issue, and if we're just going at the nails with an antifungal in the kind of situation we're talking about here, that's not treating the root. And that's like this case of Laura where it just keeps coming back because there's some obstacle in the way, there's some root cause. And even just taking an oral antifungal, just to throw this out there as well, like that's not effectively treating a gut candida overgrowth in most cases. If you've been around here at CanXida for long, you know that it takes a holistic strategy. And candida treatment is not just as simple most of the time as just, oh, I'm going to take an antifungal and it's going to go away and it'll be fine. It doesn't really tend to work that way. There's got to be a holistic strategy, and that's why we have the protocol here at CanXida that we do and the formulas that we use in that protocol because it's a holistic strategy. So even if you're thinking, oh, I could take an oral pharmaceutical and kill off the gut candida, and then my nail issues will get better. That may not be the case because if there is a gut candida issue, then it's quite possibly not going to go away just by doing a kind of kill approach on its own. So what we're really talking about, right, is a root cause versus symptom treatment. And the first thing in the therapeutic order of naturopathic medicine is to remove the obstacles or to cure or to wellness, remove obstacles. What are the things that are present that are getting in the way of your body doing what it knows how to do naturally, which is to restore health? Your body wants to move in a direction of health. There is no such thing as optimal health. Like, there's not healthy and there's sick. It's a spectrum. And so, we can always be healthier and we can always be sicker, right? And so all we're trying to do is move ourselves in a direction of health, right? And so if we're not moving in the direction of health, which is the natural direction that the body will want to go, it's because there's an obstacle in the way most of the time. And so in this kind of case, we might just consider some foundational conditions for health or determinants of health, which would be the diet, what's going on with the diet, how is sleep, what's the hygiene like in this case, we want to be thinking about that. So these sorts of things. So this is a good time for you to reflect about ask yourself what kinds of obstacles do you think might be getting in the way of a more whole body wellness, right? Not just focusing on what's getting in the way of my nails not getting better, but that and are there any other things that I know that if I did these things, I might start to feel better? Like, oh, I'm also, besides the nails, I also am pretty fatigued. I'm so stressed out, right? That suppresses the immune system. I'm so stressed out. Like, I know that that's an obstacle to me getting well. So, the answers to a lot of the things that you need to do already. I usually, ask my patients to tell me if you could do one or two things in the next month that would improve your health, what would it be? And they can easily come up with a couple. And so we talk about that because you are your best, your inner knowing is better than most things I could tell you or anyone else. So reflect on those things. And we want to support the immune system. So stress management can be an obstacle to health, but a lot of times it's because it's an immune system suppressor or dysregulator. Again, sleep with the immune system, and then specific nutrients, right? And so this is related to diet in that we need a nutrient dense diet. But if there's particular nutrients that are really important for the immune system that we're not getting in our diet, uh, then or through supplementation or something, then there can be some decreased immune function for those reasons as well. And just if you're wondering more about all these things, like, oh, what immune system nutrients, go through the CanXida channel and see all the content that we have and all the videos that I've done. Um, I talk about the immune system. I talk about die-off reactions. Talk about all kinds of stuff, and I'm always sprinkling other things in there that are, broader concepts as well. So I encourage you to just go through those things because I can't talk about everything here that I talk about in all the other ones. It's just throughout, right? But I just want to mention that the immune system is a primary focus, and if you're wanting a good place to get more, the very first webinar that I have in this series of things is a comprehensive one. It's over 2 hours long, and it's everything about Candida, and it's the whole protocol. And you can watch the whole thing. You can go to each part that you want. So if I'm going to talk about the diet today, I'm not going to go in as much depth as I do in that longer video, but you can go to that video and you can watch more, right? And hear the full details of the diet strategies and things. In this kind of case, we want to treat the gut. We want to say, okay, this isn't getting better. Let's do some things that help to rebalance the gut microbiome. And if there's candida overgrowth, let's do some things that will decrease it. The MEVY diet is part of what I'm going to talk about. We want to do some sort of natural oral antimicrobial, and this is largely aimed at the gut to help decrease candida numbers there, and but also there's some systemic action as well. And then probiotics, right? Probiotics, again, because we're trying to rebalance the gut microbiome. Candida overgrowth is just a dysbiosis or an imbalance in the ecosystem of the microbes that is favoring candida. So there's just too much candida, there's not enough good bacteria, there's probably some bad bacteria. So it's about rebalancing that more than just like a killing approach, right? And then part of this though is going to be a topical antimicrobial approach, that a natural one that I'll discuss, because that is important too. If you do the systemic sorts of things, the diet, lifestyle, and gut healing stuff along with the topical, that's when you'll start to see the improvement that you want. The first thing that I want you to do is to consider the behavior and hygiene practices. Sometimes it seems obvious to some of us, but sometimes, like, we can all have blind spots, and then we don't think about it. And if you're not getting your feet aired out, that's a really big one. And so if you're wearing socks and shoes all day, every day, and wearing the same socks. And especially some of us, get kind of clammy, sweaty feet and things throughout the day. Especially in that case, like you need to air your feet out as much as possible. Get the sun on them too if you can, because what is fungus like? Dark and damp. So air them out, get some sun on them. If you can, wear sandals, depending on where you live and the time of the year and things, the season. But wear sandals as much as you can. And again, change your socks often and just wash regularly. So those things can go a long way. I can remember when I was in high school and I got athlete's foot, which was probably from, showering in the locker room and stuff. But uh, really, like I was pretty healthy then in high school. So that was kind of the main issue, was that I was being exposed to it. And then I was just, you know, didn't have great hygiene. I was in high school and like, how often was I really washing my feet? And I was like in sports and wearing, sweaty socks and stuff all the time. So all I really had to do was change the behavior, wear sandals in the shower in the locker room, and stop wearing, change my socks more often and wear sandals. I remember doing that, and then it just kind of resolved. So that can be a major reason that it's going on. Just to throw that out there. First part of our protocol here at CanXida that we use when we focus on candida overgrowth in the gut is getting the dietary aspect in place. So there's a lot of different candida diets out there. This is the approach that we like and we've seen work, and this is the MEVY diet. And so it's an acronym. It's meats, eggs, vegetables, and yogurt, and meat. Fish is in that as well. So it's like animal protein, eggs, and vegetables and yogurt. And so maybe 3 or 4 weeks, right? And so the main thing that this is doing, it's a low carbohydrate diet, and candida uh, can actually, the organisms like can live off of actually any substrate for food. So it could be fats, proteins, or carbohydrates, but they love carbohydrates. That's what they would prefer. So this is a high quality protein, fiber, and nutrient dense, right? And low carbohydrate diet. So we don't give them their primary energy source. And it will decrease the number of fungi, and it'll also weaken them, uh, possibly, to the treatment, because they're sort of stressed more when they're not getting the food that they want. And, I talk about this MEVY diet at length in the comprehensive webinar, but just to, a couple of the higher points here. Lower sugar fruits may be okay, especially when there's sugar cravings. I'll tell people like have some blueberries, like frozen blueberries. Have a cup of them a day or something. I've seen that can help sugar cravings, and those also they're low sugar and lower sugar than a lot of other fruits, and and it could be any types of berries really. And the polyphenols in there are like a prebiotic for your healthy gut bacteria, so it will help the healthy gut bacteria. So that's something that you can do, and citrus is lower as well in sugar. But if you can just take the fruit out, I usually recommend that. That's just if you're kind of needing to, that's an option. Yogurt, it has to be plain. If you read a label of any flavored yogurt, even just vanilla, it's got a ton more sugar than if you compare it to the plain. So it needs to be plain, and alcohol should be avoided. Alcohol is a major contributor and fuel source for candida. So while you're doing that for 3 to 4 weeks, uh, in the protocol we call this phase one. So the phase one is the first 3 months. While you're doing that dietary change, you want to start taking CanXida formula remove. This is a broad spectrum antimicrobial formula against fungus and bacteria and parasites as well, actually. And it's our cleansing formula. So it's really helping to cleanse out uh, certain organisms that we don't want there, and overgrown organisms, like especially candida. This is really aimed at candida more than anything, but it is broad spectrum. And it will decrease the candida numbers along with the diet. The goal is to get the candida numbers decreased and increase healthy gut bacteria, because the healthy gut bacteria are actually what keep the candida in check in your gut. That's how you keep candida from being able to overgrow again, is you get a resilient immune system and a lot of healthy gut bacteria. and that will keep a candida gut issue from recurring. But it can take a while to get there, but that's kind of the overall goal. With the with the CanXida formula remove, you want to take one tablet for 3 to 4 days with food. You just want to start low and make sure that you do okay with it. And if you're feeling okay, you're not having any symptoms of, you know, what some folks might call die-off reactions, or just, um, you know, if your digestive system's doing okay with that one tablet 3 to 4 days, then you just increase to 2 tablets a day for 7 days, and you're kind of aiming for a goal of 1 to 2 tablets 3 times a day. That's quite variable. Again, I have tons of information in this in the original long webinar, but also there's a dosing webinar just on how to dose these things. So um, you know, watch the dosing webinar if you want more information on how much you should be taking of the CanXida formulas. But 1 to 2 tablets a day, 3 times a day is pretty standard. If you feel kind of crummy when you started out, just decrease it. Just you can break them in half and just do a half a tablet a day for a few days, and you'll be able to slowly titrate yourself up. And the dose typically tends to be on how severe the overgrowth is. But you're going to be doing that along with the diet, right? So you're kind of hitting it in both ways. Now, remember, on my list of things that you need to do, the order of things was kind of the MEVY diet. You need a good broad spectrum antimicrobial. So that's the MEVY diet, and that's the formula remove. And the next thing was a probiotic. And why is that? Because of what I was just saying is we really have to work on building up a robust microbiome of bacteria, healthy gut bacteria, to keep the candida in check. CanXida Formula Restore is a probiotic, and it's also it doubles as a digestive enzyme, and so this is really helpful. The enzymes are helpful against candida, but they also are helpful in just helping more of your nutrients from your food to be prepared for absorption. So um, I usually tell people to take this 1 capsule twice a day with food because the digestive enzymes. Sometimes uh, I'll tell people to do one, you know, with the main meal of breakfast or lunch or whatever it is, and then the second one to do on an empty stomach before bed. That can sometimes be helpful, or if you forget, just take it on an empty stomach before bed because the enzymes will still be helpful against candida. So one twice a day, and the probiotics in here, you'll see there the L is lactobacillus, and the B is bifidobacteria, and these are the primary types of bacteria they're like the number one enemy of candida in your gut, basically. Now, you're never going to eradicate candida from your gut. There's not a reason to, because I was saying earlier, it's a healthy part of most of our microbiomes, but it's just when it's overgrown that it's an issue. So the way that it keeps itself the way that the body keeps it in check is actually these types of bacteria, these lactobacillus and bifidobacteria. So they're in this supplement, and then the yogurt, the reason that that's there is because uh, the way that yogurt is made, the fermentation is lactofermentation. It's lactobacillus and bifidobacteria species. So one of these twice a day, and for at least the 3 months that you're doing the remove formula, and getting your and just maintaining the diet. You're only doing the MEVY diet for 3 or 4 weeks, but then as you increase whole foods that are well tolerated, you still want to just continue these during that time frame. And I'll summarize this here, you know, at the end of the presentation for you. Now, if your diet has been one of the major obstacles, perhaps you're just, you know, there's lots of reasons that maybe we aren't eating as optimally as we know we should. Maybe we're working a ton and we're grabbing, you know, bars and easy to eat things. Maybe we're getting fast food because that's easy. You know, convenience is a common reason. Whatever it is, if you know your diet is not as great as it could be, if there's low nutrient density, I would recommend taking the CanXida formula rebuild for the first 3 months as well, because um, if your diet has been nutrient deficient in for some time, there are a lot of nutrients, especially potentially minerals, that you are not getting, that your immune system needs to function optimally. So this is a really high quality and high dose multivitamin that I recommend for anybody where I have a question about the nutrient status, I will use this because the nutrient status is essential for your immune system to be able to function optimally. So again, in the first 3 months, while you're doing the dietary changes, the formula remove, the formula restore, and then if you think that there's low nutrient issues, or you just want to make sure you do everything you can to really get on this and like make it be resolved, then I would say do the formula rebuild as well. And there's some antimicrobial and digestive system supportive herbs in here, which makes it kind of a cool multivitamin, right? Because there's an additional layer of digestive support there. And 2 capsules a day uh, is the dosage for this, tablets rather, 2 tablets a day. And you can do those both at once with food, or you can do one twice a day with food. I wouldn't recommend going more than that just because this is high enough dose that you might get too much of certain nutrients. Okay, so I think you can kind of see that. I just want to pause to sort of to bring us back to where we. So we're in the sort of situation where there's nail fungus, tried some topical things. It's just not going away. It's just not resolving. It's being stubborn. Okay, why? Like, what else is going on? Perhaps there's a gut issue. There's likely some sort of contributing factor in the gut microbiome, right? And the immune system uh, involved in the gut. So, our approach to that was to first consider the hygiene aspects. All right, is there anything that I could be doing in terms of like airing my feet out and wearing, changing my socks and those things I talked about? So let's not make the terrain or the environment optimal for them to for the nail fungus to grow, right? So let's take care of that. And then the next thing is I said consider the obstacles, right? And that you probably know 1 or 2 things that you could change that would improve your health, right? In some way or other. And those are good things to focus on. And a lot of times those obstacles are they're determinants of health that are diet, lifestyle types of things, right? So consider those things. But from there, we went into a holistic supplement strategy to address uh, gut healing candida overgrowth in the gut and dysbiosis, healing the gut barrier, and rebalancing the immune system. So we're doing those. That's already quite a holistic, kind of lifestyle body strategy, if you will, right? But then we also can go topically. There's no reason we can't also just treat the nail, and we should treat the nail. But we just don't want to do it without thinking of these other things because in this kind of case, with what I'm talking about and describing, is the nail fungus is a symptom. The nail fungus is a symptom of something deeper going on, right? That's the kind of situation we're talking about. Whereas the example I was giving of myself, in high school with athlete's foot, is like the that was that was not a symptom of something deeper going on. That was a symptom of the hygiene issues that I was having, right? So in this case, the deeper issues are potentially the gut and immune system uh, dysfunction suppression. If you take care of those things that we talked about and you do an effective topical approach, then you'll start to see an improvement. Okay, so the best probably the best topical natural antifungals would be these 3 things here. There's a couple of essential oils. One is tea tree and one is oregano. Oregano is quite potent, um, and so I would say just judge your sensitivity first. If you know you're really sensitive, you have really sensitive skin, those such things. I would maybe start with tea tree. Oregano, essential oils in general, um, can well, I guess I would start by saying this that the broader conversation about essential oils is I've seen over the last 10 years or so a lot of kind of influencer culture around natural health and in particular like around essential oils as a natural health strategy. And there's a lot of people who don't really know the science of the human body and how it interacts with these things. And there's a lot of people that are, trying to sell essential oils and things. And there's nothing wrong with that because I am a major advocate for natural medicine information and knowledge, and access to natural medicines. And essential oils are amazing natural medicines. But the thing that doesn't really get conveyed in a lot of the influencer type culture in that is that essential oils are very, very potent natural medicines. It's not like taking an herb, and it's much closer in kind of in the way that we should think about it to a pharmaceutical because it's so potent. It's highly, highly extracted aspects of a plant. Takes tons and tons, pounds and pounds and pounds of a plant just to get a little bit of an essential oil. So I just want to, digress a little bit into that to just say that these need to be treated with respect. And so, because they're so potent, topically, there's some things we need to think about. We don't need to use much. So this is like one drop. You want to put one drop of the tea tree or the oregano or the grapefruit seed extract. That's not an essential oil, but all three of these are the same sort of approach. You put one drop on the nail itself. Um, I, I would put it on the nail and around it, and on the nail bed. Really importantly, the nail bed, because being that they're oils, highly volatile oils, they'll absorb through the tissues. They'll absorb. They should probably mostly get through the nail. They'll definitely absorb through the tissues under the nail bed. So they'll diffuse because they're volatile oils. So you only need one drop. But I would say, especially with the oregano, I've seen people have skin reactions to it where it's like a chemical burn basically. And so if you use that, just be conscious. I would say uh, put a tiny little bit on the first time on one nail. Just see how you do with it. And if you're really sensitive, what you can do is you can dilute them. So using an essential oil just on its own is called using it neat. But if you most of the time when I would use them, I would use them diluted in an oil, like olive oil, or I mean, it could be anything. It could be sesame oil or argan oil or whatever you want to use. Um, that will dilute it so that it's less potent and doesn't cause much of an irritation if you have that sensitivity. But it is nice in this situation if you're okay with if you doesn't irritate your skin and the tissues, to use it neat, to use just the oil, because you want it to be as potent as you can, right, on the fungus that's on the nail. So I want to just kind of try to bring that all together, that the natural antifungal essential oils are amazing. They just need to be treated with respect. And within that way of thinking is, I need to say, don't take them internally. I know there's a lot of people out there that will tell you, oh, take essential oils internally for this thing or that thing. And just as a general rule, I do not recommend that, and especially for children, I don't recommend that. There's lots of ways to use oils uh, in an effective way topically or aromatically, and I definitely wouldn't recommend doing it without professional guidance, because there's a lot of different types of oils, and some of them can be toxic, and essential oils can be neurotoxic if you take them internally too much, because they're oils, and they will go in and damage the fat part of the part of your body that's made of lipids or fats, and that is your nervous system. So I just always feel the need when I talk about essential oils to mention some of those things, not out of like any trying to not out of trying to create fear at all, but just a respect really for how potent of natural medicines they really are. And the duration of this, I've mentioned this a few times, but the CanXida formulas will be, in this kind of case, I would say just plan on 3 months as a minimum. Now, if you sort of discover for yourself, oh, there really is a gut issue here, like the nail issue, I don't like how it looks, but yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, I've really had some digestive issues for a long time, and maybe you test for Candida, which I would recommend if you think that's the case, and it comes back positive. Watch some of the other webinars, because 6 months is a more reasonable time frame for that kind of situation. But so I'd say a minimum of 3 months, but maybe longer depending on your situation, for the formulas. And for the MEVY diet, so the MEVY diet is 3 to 4 weeks, and then really what we want to do, as much as possible, start adding in more foods, have as nutrient dense of a diet as possible, but you want it to be a whole foods diet. in a general sense, a whole foods diet that's diverse in the types of foods you're eating, especially the types of plants that you're eating, that is kind of the essence of an anti-inflammatory diet and one that will be supportive to your gut and your immune system and your microbiome. So the MEVY diet, and you can go longer with the MEVY diet. Maybe you feel really good and you're like, no, I just want to do this for another month. Like that's fine. It's a nutrient dense diet. There's no reason that you can't do it for longer. But I just tell people a lot of times, aim for 3 or 4 weeks and then see how you feel. And you can start increasing foods. But 3 months is the supplementation, 3 to 4 weeks for the MEVY diet, and then really it's just ongoing after that. You need to continue to avoid sugar and alcohol, and hopefully that's a reset for your dietary practices for the long term, right? And the topical treatment, the oils, the essential oils, or the grapeseed extract that you're using on the nail itself, that can vary. I would say do that potentially for the whole 3 months, but you might want to give it a break, especially if, say you're using it for 2 weeks and it's starting to, you're like, oh, my skin just needs, the tissues just need a break. The skin needs a break from that. You might do it for 2 or 3 weeks, take a break for a week or 4 days, something like that, and then go back to it. If you're fine with it, you could just keep going and it'll be effective even more quickly, potentially, right? But consider like the 3 month mark. That's a long time to be doing a topical treatment. I mean, in reality, you might get to a month and it might look a lot better, right? And you're like, I don't know if I need to do this anymore. And if that's the case, like just trust yourself with that. And maybe a month was good. So kind of play with that. But, really at a minimum 2 weeks. I couldn't imagine if this is a long-term issue that only 2 weeks is just going to take care of the issue unless the rest of the strategy that you're doing is working really well and quickly, right? And the hygiene things that you maybe are changing and figuring out, those are of course ongoing. And this slide is to summarize everything that I talked about. The causes are listed here. The holistic approach, really the main point is don't get too focused on the symptoms. In this case, don't get so focused on the nail that you're not on the nail that's got fungus on it and like, I want this thing to go away on my nail. Don't get so focused on that you lose sight of the fact that you are a whole organism and whole human being, and that there are some core pieces uh, of your body and your lifestyle that can impact you as a whole in a way that you can have a symptom pop up like nail fungus when really there's more core things that need to be addressed. So just, yeah, don't get too hyper focused on that and think about yourself more as on a whole picture like we talked about here. And the treatment part can be a systemic and topical support. Definitely should be both. Treat the cause, gut, perhaps, the immune system. There's lots of other things I talk about in some of the other webinars about what are the causes of gut candida overgrowth, anything that impacts the immune system. It doesn't have to be, it could be diabetes, it could be chronic infections, could be really high stress for a long time. There's lots of things that impact the immune system. So just you kind of have to just keep that in mind in general as well. So the gut, the immune system, uh, the diet can be a cause, stress management, hygiene, all the things there that we talked about. And then the formulas that you need to for sure use is the formula remove and the formula restore. And again, the formula rebuild is the multivitamin, and I would recommend that if you don't, if your diet isn't super nutrient dense. But at least these two are listed here because those are like the two at the minimum that I would say would make really good sense and that you should bring on board if you want to see resolution. And we have tons more information here at CanXida, tons of stuff here on our YouTube page. We have the protocol in the description below. We have technical sheets. There's lots of information on the website as well. We have a comprehensive resources page. If you have specific questions, just reach out to us. You can call or email there at canxida.com/contact. There's the phone number. And if you like this content and you want more, just hit subscribe. We'd love to have you here, and you can always just get updates then when we have new stuff. All right, everybody, be well.